With the colors presented, the Oak Ridge Boys sing the national anthem during the 2009 opening ceremony.
Stayed in the reserves, part in the Korea conflict, and also flew as a reservist in Vietnam.
I was stationed on Guam, and had a heck of a time getting in because I was a production engineer for Glenelg Martin Company. I went down to the list and they said, "Get out of here. We'll take the little old lady and the baby before we take you." I gave them a hell of a fight and finally got released. So I wouldn't have let that board revive down to the party. So since I was an engineer, they made me a flight engineer on the 829. I flew off the bomb and bound to Japan. Also been to Hiroshima, been to Okinawa, Taipan, creations of all of them.
Hoagie, originally Emma Ball in Westmoreland City, Pennsylvania. She entered the WACs shortly after the WACs were established. It used to be the WAAC, then it changed over to the WACs. Emma enlisted in 1943. And to give her a quick rundown, she took her basic training at Fort Oglethorpe, Georgia. She spent a couple of years with the 2nd Air Force headquarters, I guess, at ENT in Colorado Springs. Then spent some time in Indiantown Gap, then to Baltimore, Maryland, then shipped overseas, spent a couple of years in Germany, and that's where the two of us met. After she came back from Germany, she spent about 3 years in the Pentagon and ended up getting married and coming out of the service in 1951. That's the basic part.
Two in the United States. I was in WAC too before they did away with WAC. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Here are World War II veterans with College of the Ozark students who accompanied them to Normandy in the summer of 2009 for the 65th anniversary of it. They met again during Branson 2009 Veterans Week, where this photo was taken. This year, 2010, College of the Ozark students accompanied Marine veterans to Iwo Jima. These young men from the Branson, Missouri area were involved in a World War II reenactment where American soldiers encountered German snipers.
This year marks the 60th anniversary of the beginning of America's longest war. The Korean War, the forgotten war, has never ended. And just a few days ago, we had a very strong reminder of that in the news. North Korea fired again across the border, breaking the truce. That's one of hundreds of incursions such as that, in which American troops are still in danger and still losing their lives. At 4 a.m. on January 25th, 1950, 7 reinforced divisions of North Korean infantry crossed the border into South Korea, breaking the agreements that were drawn up at the end of World War II. They had with them all the supporting forces that they needed. It was a force of 150,000 trained troops, trained by Russia. It had over 100 Russian M14 tanks, 150 MiG aircraft. It had a motorcycle regiment. It had armed jumps attacking ports, and they crossed into South Korea, setting off the Korean War. They were armed with weapons of the time, 150 millimeter cannon, artillery, anti-aircraft, 102 millimeter howitzer, anti-aircraft guns. And facing them were 65,000 poorly trained Republic of Korea troops. You see, when America occupied South Korea, our government was afraid that if we armed those troops and trained them well, they might carry out their desire of trying to reunite both halves of Korea. So we didn't give them any artillery larger than a 105 millimeter howitzer. The old 2.36 bazooka rocket launcher, M1 rifle and 30 caliber carbines, 37 millimeter anti-tank gun, and that was about it. For 37 months and 2 days, the battle raged up and down the peninsula. Historians class it as 4 incidents. One was the North Korean invasion, push all the way to Busan. Second phase was when we got enough troops in there to turn the tide and push them back to Pyongyang and north. Then came the period when the Chinese got into it. The Chosin Reservoir, that was in November of 1950. They pushed back south, and then came the fourth period, which was pretty much trench warfare. But a lot of lives were lost. Over 54,000 Americans and some 30,000 other troops from 19 United Nations countries, plus 39,000 Republic of Korea troops. So what comes of that? One of the greatest tributes to Korean veterans is what that nation has done with their freedom. They are now one of the world's largest and strongest economies. They have the third or fourth largest military force, and it has fought alongside our troops, not only in Korea where they won their spurs, but in Vietnam, in the Middle East, and other places where we go. They're one of our strongest allies. Did we achieve anything? I think we did.
Well, you had the veterans, you were at the veterans, then were you at Department of Air Service?
Yes. And this is Sherman.
We met the other day.
And this is Ed. Have you met him yet, Ed? I don't know. Okay. He has a beautiful website called USA Patriotism.
David Bancroft, USA Patriotism founder, proudly stands with U.S. Army Sergeant First Class Bryant Fowle, left, and Staff Sergeant Robert Hinlin, right, after the opening ceremony for Branson Veterans Week on November 5, 2010. Sergeant First Class Bryant Fowle was driving a Humvee that was destroyed by a roadside bomb in Iraq. The bomb killed everyone aboard except for Hinlin, who was severely injured and burned over 38% of his body, including his upper torso, face, and head. Although given only a 50-50 chance of survival, he underwent numerous surgeries, lost a hand and an eye, and is still undergoing plastic surgery and extensive reconstructive surgery on his mouth. Sergeant First Class Bryant Fowle is the man who pulled Sergeant Hinlin out of the burning Humvee. Ironically, Hinlin had replaced Fowle at that last minute as the driver of the Humvee on that fateful day and was saved by Fowle from certain death. It was only the second time that these two soldiers had seen each other since the day of the deadly bombing in Iraq. David Bancroft, founder of USA Patriotism, signs his poem, Tears for Your Fallen, for the father of a Marine who was killed in action in Iraq. Honoring the Fallen by David Bancroft. I cannot help but think of those whose anxious wait ended with a knock. The wrenching ache felt deep down to the toes, knowing there was no more ticking for this clock. Their brave loved ones served for our country's sake, be it yesterday, today, and time yet known, given it birth and to protect, not take, their ultimate sacrifice shown. The blinding tears of taps being played, the overwhelming sadness of the colors given, the proud thought of the difference made, the final salute to the fallen, now in heaven. And while there is a special day that we honor the memory of the gift they gave, it should go well beyond a national thought in May, like every time when seeing the flag wave. David Bancroft, founder of USA Patriotism, and Julie Feingold, artists of the Lost Heroes Art Quilt, proudly stand with parents whose sons are on the quilt.
for all.
Veterans. While there have been and are many patriots who made the USA what she has become and remains today, there should be no doubt about how far our great nation has come to be through the bravery of those who honorably served all in the military, with some taking the ultimate fall, and the others carrying on with civilian life when their duty was done. They are America's veterans, who are there for us each day, like our valiant troops do so now, safeguarding our great, beloved USA against all who dare to cause her harm. So let us all stand proudly tall on Veterans Day, giving thankful praise in remembrance of their noble deeds for sake of America's security needs. Thank you. Thank you, veterans.
David Bancroft.